How much does luck play a role in your academic success?
I think a lot, and maybe not just in academic success, but anything in life. But if I talk about specific to academia, I think there are two main things which define your success. The first is what kind of mentors and advisors you encounter in your PhD, master's, and postdoc.
Hey everyone, welcome to RB Talks. I'm Simran and I'm so excited about this one. Today we are joined by someone whose journey truly speaks to what it really means to grow with grit and gratitude. We have today our guest, Dr. Prateek Bansal, who is an assistant professor at NUS and holds prestigious Presidential Young Professorship. He's walked an incredible path from IIT Delhi, followed by Masters in Transportation Engineering from University of Texas at Austin. He then pursued postdoctoral research at Imperial College London and now shaping ideas on a global stage. Let's jump into it and let's see what it really takes to build a researcher life that's both meaningful and sustainable. Hello, Dr. Prateek. We'll get started and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, I hope I did not miss anything. Here is my first question. You pursued a master's degree immediately after your bachelor's and continued through a PhD and then postdoctoral research without exploring a corporate career path. So, what motivated you to commit to research so early in your career, and how did you determine that it was the right direction for your?
Thanks for the question, Simran. I think it's interesting to think about it when you started all this. In the early year, I think no one knows what they want to do, but they have some intuition, maybe this is the right path. In early days, when I was preparing for IIT JEE exam and during IITs, I had that tendency to hold on to problems, dig deeper, and stay on them for longer duration. So, from the name research suggests, maybe we thought it's about the deep thinking and rigorous thinking where the time is not a constraint. So I always used to think that if I get into these kind of tasks where I don't need to worry about time, but I can keep thinking about the problem, I was very comfortable and I used to enjoy that process. So that's one of the indication that, okay, I'm patient, I can stay longer on the problem. And that was the initial indication that I'm interested in research. I had 6 months break between my master's and PhD. And at that time, I had thoughts maybe I can try corporate, maybe I can try startup, all those things. And in those 6 months, I explored many things. Like I went for Jagriti Yatra, went for Vipassana, went for a month internship in South Africa. So I was utilizing that time very pleasantly and figuring out other opportunities in the meantime. And I didn't have even PhD offer at that time. So I was mainly thinking about other options, but the deep and the rigorous thinking that you do in PhD and the autonomy that you get in your research career, I think these are the two things that overpower or compensate the monetary benefits that you get in corporate jobs. So I think it's a combination of things, but not easy to decide too early.
Yeah, I think, and that really stands out because it's not easy to choose depth over speed and then valuing autonomy more than money. That's something a lot of us don't realize until much later, and it's quite inspiring that you saw it so early. So kudos to you. It's awesome to hear your journey, and I'm sure a lot of people will get inspired to it. So my next question would be, how did your early background shape your academic journey?
Well, that's exciting. I mean, it depends how early you want to go in. But I think academic journey mainly is all about patience, rejections, handling rejections, and building that resilience to continue thinking deeply. Because it's not just about thinking deeply, it's all about handling all those rejections where people are judging you and then keep moving forward. So in terms of that, I would say when you go for undergrad in IIT, you are competing with the generally smart crowd of people, and that helps in sort of getting you a little bit more confident if you are doing well in that environment. I think that gives you confidence that maybe you can do better at the global stage as well. That's one. But if you go a little bit more earlier, my background has been in Hindi medium until class 10th. I switched from Hindi medium to English medium in class 11 along with preparation for IIT. So I was always underconfident about English background. When I went to IIT as well, you feel a little bit isolated, and I think the communication is also a very important part of academia. So I learned it from very scratch when I started learning English and the communication in IITs. And I think this process also develops a lot of resilience and being okay for taking more feedback, and and I think all this are very helpful when you go to your academic journey. And as I was talking about resilience, if you think, I mean, if I go back to my final year of undergrad, this is kind of supposedly the most important time for most people, I would say. And at that time, I was bedridden for 4 months around. I had to take the semester drop in my final year of undergrad. And then I took another semester drop so that I can utilize that another semester drop for doing some research internships. So during that 1 year, my parents were worried, my friends were worried, my professors were worried, but I was not so worried, I would say, about what's going to happen, because I mean, whenever you get a challenge, you think, how do you convert that into an opportunity? So as I said, I took the 1 year drop. In the remaining 6 months, I did internships. So I went to Taiwan, Montreal, University of Montreal, Chalmers University in Sweden for internship just after recovery. And all this before going for masters. So this helped me in building the foundation that is needed for research even before going to research. If I see it in a wholesome way, it's more about building that resilience early, ready to take the feedback, and having that early research experience. I think it helps in building that mindset which is needed for research. It may not feel that it is directly useful, but it internalizes a lot of things that helps you automatically when you go through a lot of bad phases in research, when things are not moving forward or your best paper get rejected in those situations. All this becomes very useful.
Wow, wow, that's such a powerful reminder for so many things. When I look back, that most successful paths have like rough patches. And I think the fact that you've turned into these challenges into such fuel, it makes your journey even more relatable. So it's beautiful when you put it that way. And again, congratulations for that you have come so forward in your life, and and the journey looks like that it's filled with gratitude. So it's amazing, and thank you really for sharing with us. Okay, so I was saying that your journey was in Hindi and then you sort of switched it to English. So why do you think English writing and verbal clarity is more important for researchers?
I would say 20 years ago, maybe writing and communication was not so important in research because people only cared about the deep research, that what is the science that you are doing. But with I think the evolution that we are seeing in terms of people have limited attention span, and in that you have to communicate your ideas, right?
Yeah.
If someone reads a paper and they don't like in first 5 paragraphs, maybe they don't continue reading it
Yeah.
further. If you're going to talk about your research to a broader audience, you have to understand how you can cater that broader audience. So that's one of the reasons that communication is very important in the current world. And I have realized when I went for my master's and PhD, Indians generally have a tendency to write long sentences, which is not very good when you do the academic writing, right? It should be simple, short sentences that people can understand.
Right.
So specifically this part, it took me lot of time to unlearn this writing long sentences and making it succinct and let me learn through the process. I think writing, again, as I said, writing was not important 20 years ago, but writing has become important. But again, now writing has becoming less important with LLMs. You have large language models which can correct your grammar, which can change the tone. If you feel that you want to write more technical one, they can make it more technical. If you say write it more for a general audience, they can make it general audience. Having said that, I think writing is okay, but communication, the verbal communication, still you have to do, right? So it's a blessing, but not a blessing in the sense that writing, you are getting a lot of support. So you're thinking less. But when you have to do the verbal communication, you have to improve and make it top notch. So basically, you are losing the learning part that you had to do in writing, but at the same time, you have to be good in your verbal communication. So it's a blessing, but I wouldn't say it solves all the problems. So I think these are the challenges that technology brings, and we have to adapt over time that how to best utilize it. For example, I tell my PhD students to not use LLM for the first paper, so that they know the process of how to write the first paper without any support, and they learn the thought process and figuring out how we can best use them.
That's a good advice. And that really did hit home, because I feel that it's really not about showing what your vocabulary look like. It's really about being how you're being understood and owning in your own voice before all these tools step in. But that brings to my next thing. So you mentioned about writing, importance of it, and then people shouldn't be using at their first go. But then how do you actually improve your writing or presenting?
I think to improve anything, I think there are two main things which are important. First is you have to value it, that this is important to me. And second is you have to be ready for the feedback. And feedback is not always polite. Feedback can be harsh. I didn't know whether the English is valuable or not, but I know it's my weakness and it's at least needed for the day to day communication in the early stages. So during my early days in IIT, where I was feeling isolated because I was not very good at English, I used to have a wall dictionary in my room. It might sound so dramatic, but it used to be like that, where I'll have the letters from A to Z. Whatever words I learned during the day, I'll just put it down there and will revise it week by week. And my wall was full of words, basically. When you start seeing the value, then you start putting effort automatically. And once you do that, then you start making it perfect. And I think the bottom line here is you have to put yourself in those situations. So what that means, you have to write more, you have to give more talks, and I think all that will come together. You can see, I at the age of 16, I couldn't even introduce myself in English. So it's improving day by day, and I still improve. I still ask for the feedback. So that mindset has to be there. That it's not just nothing is enough when you want to get to the perfection.
Right. We learn and we grow, right? And feedback is your friend. So I think I am taking that with me for sure. And I was also a very dictionary person. I can't remember since when. So I really have a lot of respect for you, that you put it all together. Okay, so we are here about your growth, and it's actually a great way to learn about it when you hear criticisms and how you embrace it. So it's actually it's actually one of the right way to go about it when you really need to grow and learn something. You shared so many things, but now that leads to me another thing, that have you ever faced imposter syndrome or faced challenges related to mental well-being, and how have you navigated these moments?
Yeah, thanks for asking this question because it's very common in academia that you face these type of imposter syndrome. Thankfully, I haven't experienced many such instances in the past. I think it's all in your brain, how you make it, how you fool it basically, right? In all sense. For example, you can have high aspirations. They want to crack the best problems out there, difficult problems out there. But along with high aspirations, the gratitude is equally important. And that's the way to fool your brain, basically. That you get up in the morning and you have to feel that where you are is also not bad. But at the same time, what you're aspiring, if it happens, it's very good. So I think it's all about that balancing the gratitude with your aspirations. I think that makes a big difference. And second thing, I think you can make a conscious effort. It's not that some people have gratitude and some people don't. For example, one of the things that I used to do is I consciously worked hard during my PhD that how do I reduce the time where I get the rejections on the papers and get back to work with 100% efficiency. So you have to put a conscious effort. You have to think how you can do it. So these are the things which I think you can learn, and why these things are difficult, because there is no cookbook for these things, right? You have to figure out on your own what works for you. And I think finally I would say one more thing which makes a big difference when you talk about these mental well-being issues: having a good social circle. With the good social circle, it can vary, the definition can vary for people, but for me it is mainly having few friends but very close knit friends, and where you're doing filters in all parts of your professional life where you can talk without filter. Yeah, I think it's very difficult to have mental well-being issues if you really have three or four or even two friends with whom you can just talk without filter. So I think all these together, gratitude, along with having high aspirations and fooling your brain, working on your weaknesses, reducing time between rejections, and getting back to the full-fledged working and having good friends. I think this all works out quite well when you talk about mental health.
Well, I agree. Mix of gratitude and ambition. That's honest. And I love how you actively work on shortening the bounce back time, which you were mentioning about, and that's actually a mindset shift. It's not a one day thing. It's a mind shift, and well, I'm so happy that you're able to crack it, and now we have the tips.
I hope it stays this way, because there are shifts in the life, and
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a once you get to that stage, I think it becomes exciting. Rejections do not seem too bad, and at the same time, I mean, it's all about that enjoyable life movements, right? So that's what you can lead very, very nicely, despite all that.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. It's awesome. Okay. What do you do when you think that research feels overwhelming to you?
It's normal to feel overwhelmed in research, but I think how you manage it is important. It's not very common for me to feel overwhelmed, I would say. Again, I don't want to jinx it,
We all
but I think it has been very, I would say, wholesome journey where I never felt fatigued or exhausted that this is it now. But I hear those stories. It's very common in research to get fatigued. And I think the bottom line here is you have to have a you have to have a routine. You have to have a friend circle, and also you have to have something to look forward beyond research. So, for example, your semester is finishing, you have done a lot of research in that, then you should have some travel, maybe. It was like travel is my escape, for example. Maybe some people have something else. So you have to have something to look forward to in addition to having a good friend circle. Similarly, this is, let's say, an horizon of the semester, but on a weekend, you should have some social gathering rather than always talking about academic research, because we don't have any boundaries, right? We don't have any boundaries in terms of when to start and when to end. Many of my friends in research just work till late nights and over the weekends. I also do work on the weekends, but not the whole weekend. I try to compartmentalize it in some part for the social gathering, some part for the research. But I think the bottom line is the daily routine. I try to sleep between 10 to 11 p.m. and wake up between 5:30 to 6:30 a.m. Irrespective of how many deadlines you have, what has happened in the day, I'm able to do it more than
Yeah.
90% of the days. So that brings you in the routine. You're not overstretching because it's not like a sprint that you finish it today. It's like a long-term thing. Second thing, I think, which is not often talked about is the exercise. Because we sit too long, our body is not ready to take that. So we have to do, I think, regular exercises. And that also helps in taking care of that overwhelmingness because then you're a bit more relaxed, you have disconnected a little bit with what you were doing. So I think having a routine, something to look forward, which can be different for different people. And I think having some non-academic friends also helped because we have
See.
tendency to make a lot of academic friends, but non-academic friends where, again, you can talk without filter about the personal life and not just always talking about academic life. It helps you disconnect and come back again. So I think these are the small things which help me keep going regular, like with the intensity and still managing that you're not reaching that threshold where you start feeling the
Right.
overwhelm.
Yeah, I agree. It's always the little things, and that really clicked with me. Just having something to look forward that can change everything, and it's actually very comforting to hear that, and it's coming from you. It's very experienced that traveling, joy, and the important things of our life can be part of that structure. So it's amazing. Next thing, how does your perspective evolve from master's to PhD and then postdoc to professor? And now I can take a deep breath. So continue.
Yeah, I think it's a it's a big shift when you go from one
Yeah.
stage to another stage. But I feel it's the same in the corporate life as well. People, when they go from an individual contributor to manager, I think the things change. So it's not very specific to academia, but I'll talk a little bit about the academia. So when you go from undergrad to masters, I think in the masters your main focus is to take as many courses as possible and maybe start reading research papers to get comfortable with research if you want to go in research. If not, then you try to do well and learn as much as possible, which is useful
Right.
for your corporate life. I think masters just is kind of a preparation for the research. But when you go in PhD, it's like when you start doing your research. Actually, you start getting into thinking about the deep problems. And I would say it is also a deep foundation for whatever you do after PhD. So PhD is all about building that foundation for the future research, taking more courses, but connecting your courses with the research that you're doing. That's the difficult part for most PhD students because they don't know fully what concepts will be useful in doing their research. I was taking courses until my last semester of PhD because I used to love learning and not for auditing, just for crediting. I'll get grades for those courses. So I think that passion for learning has to be there in your PhD because you will not get that time again in the future to learn that well if you want to follow the academic life. These days, the trend is shifting. People want to write papers in their first year. It's okay, there's no harm in it. But the number of papers are increasing and people are shifting from learning to
Right.
just writing papers. And that can be good in short run, but in long run, they will run out of ideas because it's difficult to adapt. And if you don't have a foundation, it will be difficult to adapt as the world progresses. So the foundation is very important. This is something that I tell my PhD students as well. It's okay if someone else is publishing because you always feel that, oh, my friends are publishing
FOMO.
a lot of papers, right? But it's all
Yeah.
about, you have to build the foundation first. Maybe you have fewer papers, solid papers, but it will help you in the future. In the postdoc, I think that's the most tricky period, I would say, because in the postdoc, it's kind of a preparation for the assistant professorship position. So generally, I feel the best postdoc positions would be where you have some overlap with your PhD research, but you have opportunity to expand your research in certain horizon which you haven't done in your PhD. And at the same time, you have time to build your vision, what you want to do in next 5 years. Because in PhD, you are thinking about a topic level that, okay, I want to make this theoretical contribution, this methodological contribution to this topic. But when you become assistant professor and further, your aim is to build vision of your group that what you want to achieve. So postdoc is a time to prepare for that, where you can start thinking what are the ideas that you want to work on. Many people start just extending their PhD research in their postdoc and afterward. It's good, but it's not exciting because you are doing the same thing again and again. So postdoc is the time where you can little bit diverge, think about something else that you haven't done in PhD, but your skills in PhD can be useful as well. Also, I think it helps in. It's always good to have some teaching duties and supervising PhD students because I think those are the things that we have to do again when you become professors. So I think it's a very good learning process if you get a good postdoc advisor, and which I was fortunate to have, where I had a lot of freedom to do what you want to do. And now I think assistant professorship, I think it's like running a small startup where you have to not only, you shift from an individual contributor to really managing a team where you have to write your grants to get the funding to keep the group running. You have to teach as well. You have to supervise students. Then you have to do your own research. You have to review papers and edit articles. So it's a multidimensional thing, and that's one of the reasons people get overwhelmed. So I think that what works in the assistant professorship, as I said, is the routine, and the postdoc foundation and the PhD foundation helps a lot because now you can generate ideas, you can work with different type of the people, you can handle the transitions which are happening. For example, AI was not so prevalent when I was doing PhD. It started becoming prevalent like in 2015. But because I had strong foundation in my PhD, I can pick up the new advancements which are happening. And I think one thing which is interesting with the professorship part, you always interact with the young students. It's exciting because you never feel that you are getting older as you are always talking to young
Definitely not.
generation.
But that breakdown is brilliant. I actually, while you were speaking, I wanted to ask you that which was your favorite stage. But then I think I would stop myself now, and because it feels that all of this and every stage of your career calls for a different kind of you, right?
Absolutely. I think every step has its own fun and its own challenges. It's difficult to compare assistant professorship with postdoc position and the PhD position. It's a different
Absolutely,
time.
absolutely. And how much does luck play a role in your academic success?
I think a lot, and maybe not just in academic success, but anything in life. But if I talk about specific to academia, I think there are two main things which define your success. The first is what kind of mentors and advisors you encounter in your PhD, masters, and postdoc, because that can change your perspective about research. That can encourage you to think big or small, and many labs have toxic culture as well. So that's again the first thing that is generally determined by luck, that what kind of advisor you get. So I think that's first thing which determine a lot how you progress during those critical phases which define or which build your foundation. And the second thing, which is becoming much more important lately as the research is moving very fast, the topics which were important like 15 years ago are not no longer that important, right? Maybe the problems that we had, oh, very exciting, but now you have computational power which can
Right.
solve those problems very quickly compared to 10 years or 15 years ago. So I think the selection of the problems and identifying whether this is going to be important 10 years down the line, it is getting very difficult over time. I think the substitution from AI is making it even more challenging. But the main problem is you don't know what you're working is going to be relevant in next 20 years, 30 years or not. And this is entirely luck, what problems you work on. Obviously, at the current moment, you can decide that maybe this is the problem I want to work on, but you never know how things will turn out 10 years or 20 years down the line. So I think it largely boils down to your mentors, advisor selection, and the problem selection, because these are the two things which kind of define your academic career purely. And both of them have a big component of
Well,
luck.
Thank you for saying that. I think not a lot of people would agree to it. Probably they would think, but they would not agree to it that luck could be a part of it. And now when you put it that way, I think not everything could be like a grind or a hustle, right? It could be like a fate or luck or energies or what you attract, what you give back. So it is sometimes it's really about being in the right room at the right time, right? So could be.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
mostly about being at the
Yeah.
right place at the right time. And I think that brings to that connects very well with the point that I made about gratitude. If you believe that everything you can
Yeah.
control, then you don't have that. So
Yeah.
it also helps you be grounded that where you are also has a very big component of the luck, and where you will be also will have a lot of component of the luck. I think it's okay. Hard work is a sort of a minimum requirement that you have to do. So just keep doing that, and rest is
Right.
not much.
Well, yes, I agree. But then you talked about AI. Now, this is something everybody would want to know.
Yeah.
Do researchers use AI?
Significantly, I would say, I think AI has now become the part of the research itself. Not only we do research on AI, but AI is also
Right.
used in research significantly. So I think one of the most used cases that we know is writing papers. We use doing the literature review. We do use AI a lot. And I can say that it has improved efficiency significantly. The tasks that used to take a week, now you can finish it in a day or two. Second thing that I think we have been using AI is for brainstorming. I think that's good, but at the same time scary. That now the computers, the machines can think about or have a conversation with you, yeah, about the ideas that
Right.
you have been studying for a very long time. Also, this is the part of the research, but LLMs, large language models, are also used to generate a lot of data, because we say that, okay, rather than taking data from humans, how about we assume that LLMs are humans and we use them as an agent to generate the data. So, which is great, but I think a lot of work is going on that how do you combine the human AI interactions together so that you can improve AI. But as I said, it's great, everything is good, but scary, like hell, as we are moving forward. Not only for corporate, but academia as well. AI can write papers, right? So lines are getting blurred, and it's not that easy to keep innovating, right? I mean, defining your contributions much more specifically than what AI can do.
I always thought that the AI could be used for enhancement, but for not for replacement. But now when I see down the line, I could see that it's the tension is real. And when you put it that way, I think it's like a real issue in research as well. But I think
Yeah,
when you
indeed.
use in the right way, it can definitely be more open to more opportunities. This brings to my last question. So, how have things changed before the PhD and now? It's like two different worlds we are living in now. So, how have it changed for you personally?
I think I can speak mostly on the behalf of computational social scientists, which cover, large crowd of researchers. So I would say a lot of focus has shifted on the
Right.
big data than the theoretical research, right? Because we are churning all sorts of data sets. When you are moving through your mobile, you're moving to different places. That data is when you are tapping your cards, the credit card transaction data. So I think researchers are more interested in not only studying about what small segment of people are doing, but what populations are doing. So I think that's a big shift from the computational social science. I would say it started like 10 years ago, but now it's picking up more. So it's a big shift. The second thing which is happening is we have started writing more papers as a research community. So I would say the research output is increasing, but the depth of the research, in my opinion, is decreasing significantly. And that's worrisome for the research community, because doing the rigorous research is our USP, because otherwise, corporates are also doing similar things, right? It's all about moving the field forward, not just writing papers. So we are focusing more on the matrix, that how many citations we got and all those kind of things. which were not so important, I would say 20 years ago. The focus was more on the deep research because number of papers were very few. The quality of the papers was important. But now with so much quantity, people don't know what to read as well. So it's getting out of hand basically because number of papers are increasing. You don't have enough people to review, so reviewers also cannot provide
Yeah.
the deep critical feedback because they are overworked as well. So if I'm getting like 10 papers in 2 months, then certainly it's difficult for me to get time and provide a critical feedback for those 10 papers. So I think, yeah, we have to find a way to reduce this insanity which is happening, I would say, where we're just writing too many papers, but not many good papers out there. So that has changed significantly. Now, if you think from the PhD student's perspective, because there is a lot of online tools which are available, as I said, LLMs are available for writing. They have packages to run the deep learning models, AI models, right? So it's so easy to create some cool plots and get the data, run some algorithms on that, get some results, right? So it's good at some point that, I mean, if you think of on one end, it's good that students are getting access to all these resources. But because they have all these resources, they don't adopt the first principles. So they don't know the fundamentals. And I have been telling in the beginning, if you don't know fundamentals, maybe in the short term, it's fine, but in the long run you cannot innovate if your fundamentals are not good. So that PhD training is also, I would say, declining over time because people are choosing speed over depth and the resources are available to make it speedy basically. So I think it's also a bit scary how the new generation of the researchers will be because they're not thinking enough
Yeah.
overall on an average, I would say, compared to what it was 20
Yeah.
years ago or 50 years ago. It's a fast-paced academic system which is very difficult to cope up with,
More
generally
papers,
speaking.
less pause, right? But I think probably the next breakthrough won't come from speed. It would probably come from slowing down. We don't know. It could be anything.
Yeah, I mean, but I don't see any reasons why the speed will go down. I think it has to be, the initiatives has to be taken from the leaders of the research communities who have been in this community for maybe 30 years, 40 years. I think they have to start this. But I don't see the speed will lead to any breakthrough, at least in research. I think there is one thing which can take in a good direction is because corporate culture likes speed, academia also likes speed. So maybe more academic and corporate partnerships can increase. So I think that the good thing is the translation of the research in the industry will increase. Maybe you're not doing research which is pushing the boundaries of the current existing ecosystem, but still it may be more useful. But again, that's not what research was designed for, right? Or research community was designed for to push the research boundaries. So it has to be a mix of both. And hopefully there will be some people, maybe just the change in the proportions. Maybe some people are putting more effort on translational research and some people are still doing the fundamental research. So hopefully that balances out in the future and yeah.
Runs under. Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Prateek. Thank you very much. This conversation gave me like a rare, honest reflections, not just about the research world, but overall, how we generally carry ourselves through it. And everyone who's listening, whether you are just starting your research path or if you're deep into your questions, I hope this left you with some clarity and extremely less pressure. Until next time, people should keep writing, keep learning, as we got notes from Dr. Prateek, and just try to be as kind to yourself. That would be my message for today. And this is Simran, and this was RB Talks. Thank you very much.